讲，他听过用英文讲，他会讲中文，但他的中文在对于很多人的时候就会比较有点卡。那所以今天中文的部分会由我来负责。
It's much faster if Jeff translates. So I want to thank everybody for coming out on a rainy Monday night. I know it's not super convenient. I'd like to start by talking about why we have this new parent meeting every summer.
那他要谢谢大家在这个星期天有下雨的晚上来这边。那今天他先讲的一大部分就是说为什么我们有这个家长说明会。
So a few summers ago, we had a few instances arise over the summer where parents did not fully understand some of our policies that are inside the parent handbook that you all received tonight, which we talk about on our website. After we explained the reasons behind the policies to the parents, they all understood and they could accept it. It was no problem. And so we were wondering, why is it so hard for us to express to the parents what our policies are before the summer camp starts? And so we decided to have these informational meetings so that we can explain everything, go over the handbook so that there will be fewer questions throughout the summer.
那就是几个夏天前我们都会寄这一本手册。那之前呢，就是发生一些情况，说家长没有完全的了解到这手册有一些含义，然后打电话来之后再来问。那我们那时候就想说，要怎么样的去慢慢的减少这个问题，所以决定说要这一个说明会，让大家一起有一个比较好的了解。那之后这样的话，也会可以减少我们在夏令营的时候会发生上的一些问题。
So a few of our goals tonight, we would like to obviously meet a lot of our new parents, but there are some familiar faces here as well. It's also a chance for you, after we're done, you can ask questions. I'll go over a lot of the things inside the handbook, but at the end, I'll leave lots of time for questions. You can ask questions in front of everybody, or you can wait until most people have gone and come up and ask one of us questions. So there's lots of opportunities tonight for you to get answers to any question you might have.
那今天的主要目的就是。当然是跟大家见个面然后让大家彼此认识一下。再来就是说，在我们讲完之后呢，我们也会有时间让大家问一些问题。那不管是你要在公开场合问，或者是私下之后来问，我们都 OK。
So we're going to go over tonight some of the common issues and circumstances that arise during camp, and also go over some of the different policies and why after 10 and 11 years we have the policies that we do have.
那我们主要也有一个部分，就是说我们要讲一些比较通常会面对或者是碰到的一些问题，和跟我们的一些规范有相处的一些地方。
What we're not going to do tonight is you're not going to be hearing or seeing anything super new that you shouldn't already know. All of you have registered your children for camp, so you all have an idea of what to expect. We have lots of information on the website, in our FAQ, the frequently asked questions, and in our notice about refunds and things. There's lots of the policies that are inside the parent handbook as well. So there shouldn't be anything new that you will that will surprise you a lot. So hopefully you won't hear anything like that.
那今天呢，我们的资讯通常都是已经在网络上和 FAQ 这些东西都已经有写到，所以不会让你有太多的惊喜。
Another thing that we're not going to be doing is there's not going to be time to kind of go over about. We'll explain why we have the policies we have, but we're not going to have a debate about why we have certain policies and can we change this policy or do something new. Our policies have been developed over the last decade, and they provide a really good and fun and safe experience for your campers.
那我们今天不是来讨论说为什么会有这一个规范和一些规则我们是主要是来让大家了解到这些规范规则的来源。
So the order of the presentation tonight, we're going to go over why we developed the policies. We'll talk about the campers and accommodation, where they live, where they sleep, the languages we speak at camp, food, health and medicine, hygiene, homesickness, which a lot of people are always worried about, especially if this is your camper's first time out to camp. We'll talk about camper and parent communication and how that works and what you can do and what you cannot do. Also behavior of campers out at camp and the security of camp.
那这是我们今天会讲到的一些部分为什么会有这些规范，然后他们住的地方、语言、食物、医疗和清洁，然后如果想家，我们camper 就是小朋友跟家长的一些联络管道，还有他们的行为举止和他们的穿着，最后就是那个安全。
All right. So as our policies develop over the years, we have three main important things that we think about when we determine our policies. Number one is the campers. Number two is the campers, and number three is the campers. Sometimes it makes the relationship we have with you difficult because our campers are not our customers. You are our customers. However, we're not serving you, we're serving them. So sometimes it's difficult to explain why we do some of the things we do, but we want everybody that's registered their kids to be confident and to trust that our policies are the way they are, not for us, but for the kids.
那我们呢，这是规范哦，主要的3个起点哦，就是小朋友和小朋友。那在园区而言，我们做的时候，我们照顾的是小朋友，我们的主要的客人是小朋友。但是说实在，我们主要客人也是你们。但是这个时候呢，就会有一些冲突，就是我们的规范是为了小朋友而设，不是为了家长而设。所以这时候我们需要了解到这一个点。那我们需要你们来信赖我们，对我们的一些规范是以小朋友为出发点。
That's when the kids are at camp. All the pre-camp things like the registration system, online, talking to our office, you're the 100% the customer in those circumstances. So if you ever have any suggestions or ideas or feedback about how the registration system works, we're always happy to hear your opinions and try to work to make it more convenient.
那当然，那是在注册，那当然那是在小朋友在园区的时候。那当然，你在注册的时候有一些问题啊，如果你觉得有什么方法可以让它变得更平顺、更好、更方便的话，那麻烦跟我们反映，也可以跟我们的办公室反映。
Okay, so we'll get right into it. Every week of camp throughout the summer, we have up to 130 campers at camp at one time. We're completely full for the most part, except for a few spaces in team camp. So we're going to have another very busy camp. When you registered your children, before the camp starts, we put them into tent groups and we put them into teams, and this is how they're arranged. They're arranged first by gender, boys are with boys and girls are with girls. Second, by age. Sometimes we have parents that want to put an older child with a very younger child, and we don't do that. We do it by age so that when they're in the tents, they can get along well. And third, by tent mate preference. So if child A says they want to be with child B says they want to be with child A, and they're the same gender, and they're the same age, or close to the same age, then they'll be together.
那小朋友来的时候，我们会以3种方式作为主要帮他们分组的一个方式哦。第一个是他们的性别，男生跟男生，女生跟女生是分开。第二个是年龄，我们有时候家长会要求说大的小朋友跟小朋友，因为他们可能是兄弟，但是我们没有办法这样做，因为我们会让他们在帐篷里面可以跟他们的帐篷的小朋友一起互动。那如果年龄差太大，会比较没有办法做这样的事情。然后最后就是他们在填单的时候会有一个说他们希望跟谁在一起，那这是两边都要填，就是说我填他，他填我们才会把他们放在一起。如果我填他，他填另外一个，那可能就会。
We've seen that before. Child A picks child B picks child C picks child A. It does not work. So let me tell you why, because a lot of parents want to know, if you have a tent that has 4 or 5 kids, and we have 4 or 5 kids, why can't we put them all in one tent? They're all the same age, they're in the same class, let's do that. The reason is, we also have a counselor. And a counselor, for the most part, most of the kids that come do not know each other. There are a few groups of friends that kind of know each other. But for a counselor in 1 week to really take care of the kids and get them to find new friends and to get them to listen to them and cooperate, it's best if they don't all know each other. Which is also why we don't put brothers together and sisters together. The counselor has no way in 1 week to go through all the past years of whatever sibling rivalries they've had or any sorts of fights they've had at home or what their history is. It's best if the kids in the tent don't have a lot of history together for the counselor to take care of them. But 2 groups of kids, like if A and B know each other and C and D know each other and they get together in the same tent, it's much easier for the counselor to manage the relationship.
那这个方式对辅导员，因为他1个礼拜，他在这个短时间内带这些小朋友，然后他带他们去认识新朋友。那如果他们都认识彼此的话，对辅导员这是一个比较，他必须要了解到他们之间之前的关系。那我们大多数小朋友来的时候都是不认识大家的，所以他们都是会比较容易慢慢的了解和认识大家。这样的话，辅导员可以去帮助他们。那如果要辅导员真的去理解他们所有之前的一些背景啊，如果他们之前打过架啊什么的，有的没有的，辅导员会非常在一个礼拜的短时间内处理到他们以前的问题，他们必须要面对是现在的问题。
Another thing about the accommodation, for the most part, campers stay in tents, but we do have other sorts of accommodation, which I'll explain. There are usually 2 tents that come together to form one team. So you might have 4 or 5 boys in one tent, and they have one counselor. Then you have 4 or 5 boys in a tent next to them, and they have a different counselor. Those 2 tents together are one activity team. So they might be the red team, and they have 2 counselors that take care of those 2 tents. One counselor will be a native English speaker, and one counselor will be a native Chinese speaker, so that we can cover all the different languages and all the different situations that might arise.
那大多数的小朋友都会住在帐篷里面，他之后会讲到一些其他的安排方式。那通常是4到5个小朋友一个帐篷，然后一个帐篷会安排一个辅导员，然后他旁边的另外一个帐篷也会有一个辅导员，然后因为一中一英，他们2个辅导员合并为一组。就像说这个5个小朋友住在这个帐篷，这5个小朋友住在这个帐篷，他们2个合并为一队，然后他们活动的时候就会在一起。所以有一个会讲中文、中英双语的，然后一个只会讲英文的辅导员为主。
And that team, for the first 3 days of camp, that team will travel around to all the activities together. They'll be the red team, and they'll go through our core activity rotation, like rock climbing, and river tracing, archery, all those things together. And one of those 2 counselors, for the most part, will be at each of those activities.
那在前面的营区活动的前面3天，他们这一组都会一起活动，然后在任何活动时间点呢，都会有一个他们主要的辅导员跟着他们随行，不管是在可能去攀岩啊、去射箭啊、去溯溪这些活动，2个里面都会有一个随行。
After that, we have lots of other activities. We have free choice activities. The children sign up for whatever they want to do, and then boys and girls are all mixed together at different activity groups. So if they did come with a brother or a sister or a cousin, that's a good time those last 3 days for them to have a chance to do activities together.
那后面3天会有一些自由选择的时间点，那时候就是他们可以去选择说他可能姐姐有一起来，那他们有没有想要一起去可能去打球啊，可能一起去射箭啊，什么活动的时候，那个时候是他们可以做这个安排的时候。
You can tell by the picture, it's kind of a small picture, but the tents are not like tents when I went camping when I was a child. When I would go camping as a child, I would set up my own tent, and you'd sleep on the ground, and there'd be like a rock in your back as you're trying to sleep. It was very uncomfortable. We used to say we are 5-star camping, but we don't say that anymore because when moms and dads heard that, they would only hear the 5-star part, not the camping part. But our tents do have wooden floors, they have beds, they have mattresses, they have lights inside, they have fans. They're very modern accommodation as opposed to traditional camping.
那我们是说我们是露营嘛，但是我们的帐篷跟我们有一些想象的比较差异比较大一点。就是我的话，我就是那种2人帐，然后2人塞进去可能就已经满了，然后背后有石头，然后很不舒服这样。那在我们的营区的帐篷，现在这个比较难看得出来，帐篷大概是这个大小，然后床都是有床垫，然后是抬高，地板是木质，然后里面都有灯。那以前我们会说我们是5星级露营，但是我们之后发现到很多家长都只会听到5星级这几个字，然后就想说有什么什么什么什么，有电视这样没有，就只是5星级露营为主。
Yes. They will hear lots of things at night. They will hear birds. They will hear the river. Usually the first morning after they've all slept one night, the kids will come to me and say, "Mike, it was so noisy I could barely sleep." I was like, "You live in Taipei. How can it be too noisy? You hear cars all night." By the second, third night, they're very relaxed and they go to sleep very early.
第一天晚上他们会听到很多大自然的声音，鸟叫声、青蛙声、水声这样。那很多人可能第一天也是因为他们刚到，所以精力旺盛，比较睡得比较没有那么好，所以隔天早上就来说，昨天晚上好吵，什么有的没有的呢？我们就跟他说，你住台北，你家车子旁边应该每天晚上都听得到很大的车声。
As far as the language goes, our camp, our style of camp is a North American residential style camp. I have not gone to any other camp in Taiwan or Southeast Asia that is the same as our camp. So our culture is very North American. That's why our first language at camp is English. All of our camp songs are in English. All the owners and myself, all speak English. The staff, when we have our staff meetings, we have 30 staff that work with the children throughout the week. We all speak English in our staff meetings. So the culture is English.
那我们的话就是英文是我们主要语言。那这个是一个像是北美式的一种夏令营区的跑的方式。那它是在台湾还没有看到像类似这一种跑的方式的一些夏令营的营队，所以在我们跟小朋友在互动的时候，都会以英文为主。
But we are not a language school. We do not teach English, and we do not have artificial restrictions that they must always speak English at all times, for a number of reasons. Number one, it's really important for these children over 6 days and 5 nights, being 24 hours a day away from mom and dad, to feel secure and to feel comfortable communicating with anybody they need to communicate with.
那必须要重点就是说，我们并不是一个语言学校，我们没有真的需要教他们英文，我们也不会去强力的规范他们说一定要讲英文，因为这个重要的一点就是说，他们必须要离开家里6天5夜，然后他们必须还是要感觉到说，他们如果有需要可以跟任何人去沟通的话，他们可以用他们比较安全和舒服的语言去跟大家沟通，因为他如果紧张，他想到说哦，我只能讲英文，我不知道怎么办，他不敢讲的话，那可能会发生一些问题，所以我们并没有强力的要求他们一定要讲英文。
There will be times, however, when we have particularly in teen camp and some of the youth campers, we do have foreign campers that come who don't speak any Chinese. And so we do ask that if they are in a small group with people that do not speak any Chinese, that they make an effort to just speak English around that person so that person can be included in their group.
那当然，我们会有一些不会讲中文的一些小朋友也来参加营队。那时候我们一定会跟他们讲说，我们要尊重那些听不懂的人，你们要把他们一起包含在你们的语言、你们对话之间，要不然他们会觉得说他们来，他们好像在旁边被冷落这样子。所以我们会尽量要求他们说，如果有人完全听不懂的话，那你要确定说他们也可以了解到你在讲什么，不要让他们只是在旁边等着。
Next, I'd like to talk about food. We have a very good kitchen. In the spring and the fall, we welcome corporate groups. We welcome international schools, Taipei American schools, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders all come to camp. The British section, the French section. We have schools from overseas, and they all come and they love the food. We always have really good positive feedback about the food.
那我们呢吃的，我们还觉得还吃的蛮好的。基本上我在那边工作，我是有胖的。那我们有一些很多学校在一般周日的时候，就是不是在夏令营的时候都会有来。那这时候就是我们基本上得到的一些反应都是吃的还算不错。
Now, when we have the meals, you have all been online and registered your children, so you know all about the health form. The health form is very, very important when it comes to the food aspect. On that health form, you are to write down any food allergies that your children have. We have a report before your kids come out to camp, and our kitchen will make food for them that they can't eat. So if we have chicken if we have pork in the food line and they can't have pork, we need to give them a protein, so we prepare something that they can eat. So it's really important that we get those numbers and that they're accurate.
那我们会一个健康调查吧，我相信很多家长已经有填写。那个东西对我们也非常重要，就是说小朋友如果对食物有过敏的话，就任何食物有过敏，那这个一定要填得很详细。因为如果我们收到这个资料，我们厨房才可以说哦，他可能今天不能吃这个猪肉，所以他要准备一个其他的东西，他可以得到相同的一些营养价值的食物。那时候呢，如果有填写的话，我们才可以让他们吃。就是食物会帮他们特别去准备。那如果没有这个资料，小朋友之后才跟我们讲的话，我们还是会帮他们准备。但是就是说，如果之前他们就知道的话，就可以马上处理这个问题。
Please do not write down foods your children don't like. Because it is a lot of extra work for the kitchen. And it's hard to find something other than broccoli. Like if you have a child that doesn't eat broccoli or green vegetables, I have nothing that we can prepare for them as a substitute.
那填写的时候麻烦不要写什么小朋友不爱吃的东西，是他不能吃的东西。因为像是你如果写绿色蔬菜，他如果绿色蔬菜都不能吃，那很难去找到一些他可以吃的一些蔬菜，做一个营养价值的评估。
Our policy is that when they go through the service line the first time, the counselors help them put the food on their plate. When they go through, if they see something that they do not like, they can ask politely, say, "May I have a little bit, please?" Because we don't want to waste food. But they must take some of everything. When they go back to their tables, they eat with their counselors. They're all having a meal there. When they're done eating, we have them come up a second time. The second time, they can take just the things they want to eat. However, counselors and myself will walk around. If they're not eating any vegetables, we will not just keep giving them more rice. Because by Friday, if you have a child who's only been eating rice and pasta and no vegetables, they will have a very bad stomach. So a lot of parents are worried about this. You know, we have kids that come with schools, like with the American school, and then the same children come on the weekend with the moms and dads for family camps. When they come with the American school, the kids eat everything. When they come with mom and dad, they don't eat everything. They eat only what they want to eat. Let us have your children eat broccoli. We can do it.
那就是在吃饭的时候呢，我们第一轮会帮小朋友打菜，打菜的时候呢，每一样食物都会帮他打。他如果不喜欢吃那样食物，他可以要求只要一点，但是我们希望说他最起码要尝试那一点。那他们坐下来吃的时候是每一对一起吃，一起吃的时候呢，counselor 也会在，那我们会到处去看说他们有没有特别哪一些蔬菜啊或什么都不吃，我们尽量要求他要吃一点，因为如果只吃米饭类啊，这是淀粉类的东西，他到第5天、第6天他的肚子会不舒服。那我们会做这样的，稍微看一下。
We don't allow any snacks to be brought to camp. The kids should not bring any food with them for 2 reasons. Number one, it's really hard to pack healthy snacks, so we don't want them to be eating unhealthy things and then not eating at the meal time when we have a really nice, big, balanced meal. Our meals usually have 1 or 2 proteins, fruit, vegetables, hot soup, with every single meal. So they're very healthy meals. We don't want them to fill up on bad food.
那我们是不希望小朋友带任何的零食来，因为第一个点就是说，他们如果吃了零食，他们可能主餐就吃不下。那吃不下的时候，那我们准备了一些比较营养平衡的东西，他们就不会吃。那每一餐大概会有1到2个蛋白质类，然后水果、蔬菜、汤和饮料，这些都会有提供。所以我们希望说他们可以吃他们应该吃的正餐，而不是吃零食。
The other 2 reasons, one is your children will not know other children in their tent if they have a food allergy. So we don't want to have food in the tent that they can share with other people that might make that person sick.
那另外一个就是说，小朋友去的时候，并不知道说他其他住在同一个帐篷的小朋友有没有食物的过敏，像是花生之类的，他如果拿出来，有些小朋友如果对花生非常过敏，那这个可能就危险性就比较大，所以我们不希望说小朋友带这些其他的东西，在他们可能会影响到其他人的情况下。
The third reason, which is the most important, which makes it very easy for me to get all the food from the children, if they take food in their tent, they will have thousands of ants in their tent.
那最后一个就是，如果帐篷没有零食，很多蚂蚁会进来。我们是在山区，所以蚂蚁一定会去找到它带的食物。
Yes. And so every time they say, oh, I've got ants in my tent, I always go down there and say, give me the food. They're like, oh, here it is, here it is.
对，因为就是常常小朋友说啊，我帐篷里面有很多蚂蚁，我们说那你零食就交给我们吧，它就会慢慢的一样一样的。
My favorite, we had a girl from the European school who brought dog biscuits for our dog, and she kept them in her tent.
那有小朋友带那个，因为我们有营区的狗，所以他带一些那种小狗吃的那种零嘴，但是他留在帐篷里面，那个味道蛮重的，蚂蚁绝对是感觉得到。
In your packets, there's a health and medical form. We'll talk about that on the next page, I think. Yeah, so we'll talk about that in a second. First, let me explain to you why we have the guidelines that we have for the health and medicine. We have a nurse at camp 24 hours a day who's there. She sleeps there all week, and she manages all the medicine, and she checks the campers in. We make sure they don't have fevers and things when they come. And then she also collects all the medicine. The reason why we follow the American Camp Association guideline on medicines, counselors and campers, nobody's allowed to have medicine in their tent. It all gets locked up in the clinic, the health clinic office, so nobody takes the wrong medicine, and nobody can go into a counselor's tent and find pills that they might have. So everything gets locked away with the nurse.
那我们在夏令的营区时间，就是会有一个护士是24小时驻站，他也会睡在那边，然后所有的医疗，像是药用啊，全部东西就是由他和食物过敏都是由他来主要的管理。所有的小朋友的药和所有的辅导员跟所有职员的药，通通都会由他来处理。就是说，小朋友不会去拿到其他人的药，或者是误食一些其他不应该吃到的药。那这些东西都会由护士来管理，那这是跟随那个美国夏令营协会的一些规范。
We have a health form that's in the parent handbook, which I'll talk about in a second. It's really important that every camper comes to the bus on Monday morning with that health form already filled in, so you can just give it to the counselor. A lot of times the buses leave late because people forget to fill it in, and so then they start trying to fill it in while everybody is waiting to get on the bus. So we'll talk about that in a second, but it's just really important that it gets completed.
那现在像你们家长手册里面有一张那个黄色的那个健康调查表的，就是说那个希望在小朋友你送小朋友到巴士站的时候，就是已经先填写好，就是他可能要用吃什么药，要怎么吃，或者他会带什么东西来，麻烦先帮我们在之前就先填写好。
Our nurse that we have at camp is very handy when children fall down and scrape their knee or cut their arm or have sort of a small injury. She'll patch it up. Every time a child sees the nurse and she does something like repair an injury of some sort, she'll make a record. On Saturday when your children come home, they'll bring that record with them so you can see if they fell down and scraped themselves, because we don't want her to be cleaning the cut for a few days and go home and you don't know that your child's cut themselves, and then you stop cleaning it, you don't pay attention, it might get infected. So if they do have some sort of an injury at camp like that, she will make a record and you will get that on Saturday when we drop the children off.
那像小朋友如果有受伤啊，可能去护士站，然后做一些处理的时候，护士都会把这些东西记录下来，然后填写在一张单子上面。那在他小朋友回去的时候，这一张单子会跟他们一起回去，然后就是希望家长说可以。如果他们有受伤有处理，你才会知道说他可能这里刮到你，之后可以去看说你有没有需要再进一步的处理，或者是要洗干净，这样才不会说发炎啊，或者是之后有什么更大的危险。
If there's a bigger injury, if your child has a fever, or if your child twists an ankle, or we have to take your child to the hospital, we will definitely call you. We will not take your child to the doctor, or we will not treat a serious injury unless we call and talk to you. So if you do not hear from us, your child is okay.
那如果有一些重大的，像是发烧，或者是可能扭到脚，需要去医院或者是什么样的情况，我们这种情况一定会跟家长联络，才会处理。因为所以说基本上，如果小朋友你们没有接到我们电话的话，小朋友都是 OK 的。那就是说，就是只是要让你们知道说有这些情况。
I say that because I have had a mother email me before because she didn't find her daughter in the blog pictures and was wondering if she'd been taken to the hospital for some reason. So we will tell you, I promise.
因为我们有部落格嘛，有一个家长之前就是，我小朋友好像1-2天没有出现在部落格的照片，然后就很紧张，所以就打电话过来问。
If there is any sort of a serious injury, or even if it's not a serious injury, we will still take them to the hospital. The hospital is very close to us. We have the Jinchen branch of the National Taiwan University Hospital, only about 15 or 17 minutes away. So if they do fall down, if they've injured their arm and we're just not sure if it's badly hurt or not, we will take them to the hospital because it's very cheap. It doesn't cost very much in Taiwan, and it's very close, so we can go do that. Mom and dad will have peace of mind, they'll feel more confident, and we'll bring the child back. We do not need the health card though, because it's very, very rare that we go to the hospital, maybe 1 or 2 times every summer. So please do not send health cards. I'm much more worried about losing health cards than paying a few hundred NT to treat an injury.
那健保卡这不用小朋友可以不用随身带，因为基本上我们去医院是蛮快，但是说健保卡如果小朋友搞丢了，这个是比较麻烦的一个问题。那我们离金山的金山医院大概是15分钟到17分钟的车程，所以如果有疑虑，就是说我们觉得说这个可能我们不太确定到底受伤有多严重，我们会送医院去检查。那其实因为台湾医疗很方便，其实也很便宜，健保卡有没有用，其实那个价格不会差到太多。如果是以检查而言的话，那个，所以我们觉得说情愿我们付这个钱，我们也不用说小朋友的卡弄丢了。这样子会更麻烦一些。
And because we don't want the child to spend a long time at the hospital, we have a relationship with the hospital. So our nurse will fill in all the forms first and call the hospital. So we go right to the emergency room and they can see them more quickly than having to go out and wait. You want to get in and get out and get back to camp.
对啊，那因为我们跟金山医院有一个合作的关系，所以在送去之前，那个护士都会先把一些重要的资讯先填写好，然后我们送过去就直接去急诊，然后他们就可以直接去受到那个检查这些的，就不会说要先挂号，然后等很久，然后才会排到小朋友。
Also, part of the health form that you filled in online, there's a social and behavioral aspect to it. We do not deny anybody to come to camp. If you've read through the rules and you've read through our policies and you feel that your child can do it, we will accept them. So we do have children that have ADHD, we have kids that have other issues that they're dealing with. A lot of times camp is much easier for them than a classroom. But the more we know, it's much easier for us to arrange things. So please don't keep a secret. If you know that your child has a behavior issue or has a problem with authority or has a problem following rules or has a problem with, or if the English, is very difficult for them to understand, make those comments on the health form. Every Sunday night, we all meet together and all the counselors look at all of the health form information. If they have any questions, they talk to me, they talk to our other owner, we go over them with them, we give them strategies, we tell them how to work on it. If we have anything that we want to keep an eye on, we'll go and check in throughout the week. So the more information you give to us, the easier it is for us to help your camper and all the other campers have a good experience in camp.
那健康调查表里面还有一项，就是说他的社交和他的行为举止上面，如果你填的越多，就是说像他可能会有一些对英文啊，可能比较不能了解啊，或者是说他可能对的一个命令比较没有办法接受的话，这些或者是 ADHD 啊这些行为举止上的东西，你让我们知道，我们在星期天晚上的时候，每一个 counselor 都会坐下来看他们那一区的小朋友所有的资料。那他们如果有一些比较不太确定要怎么处理的，他会跟我或者跟 Mike、跟 JoJo 聊说，这样要怎么去帮助这个小朋友在这6天可以好好的开心的玩，也不会造成什么不一样的一些问题。
A quick word about our counselors. Our counselors, we start hiring our counselors in fall. So we started hiring our counselors in November of last year. We started in America and around the world on the websites trying to find counselors to come. Most of the counselors that come are university students or have just graduated from university. They do this job because they are in outdoor education or they're in childhood development. They're in a field of study where they will be able to use this for their career. Many of them are on internships, paid internships. So they have an internship visa through the government and they can come in here and we help guide them throughout this process.
那我们的辅导员呢，主要是以大学生或刚毕业的学生为主。那他们的学习的领域通常都是像是小孩的那个幼教或者是户外活动类型。那对他们而言，这就是他们希望可以以后走这一个生涯规范，所以他们就是来这边算是学习，也算是来工作，让他们所学的东西可以得到运用。
I don't think we've ever hired anybody locally that's already in Taiwan. Most of them are coming to Taiwan at the end of June, so they wait till their university course finishes. The people that do this job, they put their heart and soul into it. It is very hard work. And to be completely honest, we do not pay them very much money. And it sounds bad, but that's just because that's what summer camps are. Summer camps are normally younger people. We hire so many staff that if we paid them a lot of money, then there would be no summer camps because you wouldn't be able to afford to run a summer camp. So the people that do this, they've either spent their lives going to summer camp every summer. They love the culture of the camp. That's why with the English language that we make the culture of the camp a real summer camp, a real American summer camp, so we can get the same people. We have counselors that are with us this year that have been here for 3 years now. They keep coming every single year to work in our summer camp.
那像会做这种类型，因为夏令营的工作其实说实在是非常非常累，是从早上到晚上一天不停的。所以那我们也没有说真的是付他们非常多的钱，说实在的。所以会回来的人，就是他们可能以前小时候有去参加过夏令营，对他们这是非常有意义的工作，所以他们才会去做这一份工作。因为平常的人如果没有接触到，会很想说，但这一种类型的工作是怎么样？所以很多人都是像我们今年有一些是已经第三年回来工作，因为他们真的很喜欢夏令营这种工作，跟小朋友互动，教小朋友做一些不一样的活动。
Our counselors, they need to have CPR. They have to be able to do CPR. They need to know the Heimlich. They need to have basic first aid qualifications, and we have all of their qualifications on record with us in our office so that we have all their current documentation so we know that they're completely qualified to handle emergency situations that come up.
那一些基本就像 CPR 哈姆立克啊，和一些基本的紧急处理就是 first aid， 我们都会有一些基本的要求。那他们的资料在我们这边都会有。
So on the form that's inside your parent handbook, there's usually I think there's two of them. One of them, there's one for each child. So if you have 2 campers coming, then you'll fill in both of them. If you have 1 camper coming, just cut it in half. Just bring half of that paper. Just the camper name, session number, if it's youth camp. If you know their team color, it helps if you can write that on there. If you know their tent name, if you can write that on there. Usually there's an email sent out the week before or a week and a half before they come to camp that has this information on it.
那填写这一份调查表的时候呢，这些资料大概在1个礼拜之前你都会收到。那如果你可以先帮我们填写好，我们会可以更快的分类他们的一些药物。
There's some things you need to write in there. My camper has not had a fever within the last 24 hours. if your child has had a fever or has been sick, please don't send them to camp. We will do everything we can to find another spot later in the summer. We will work with you 100% to keep that child at home. There's nothing fun about being at camp with a fever and a cold and being sick. We'll eventually probably have to end up sending them home anyway, and they're just not having fun. So we will, hopefully at no cost to you at all, find another session for them if at all possible this summer.
那第一个就是24小时内没有发烧的情况。那如果真的小朋友在24小时内还有发烧的情况下，我们会尽量希望家长不要送小朋友来，因为第一个他如果在发烧的情况下，他其实只是躺在医疗室里面，他其实也不会玩到，他不会很开心啊，因为他就是躺在那边发烧，很不舒服。那我们会跟你一起合作，尽量找另外一个梯次，他可以来参加。所以就说我们会还是希望他可以来，但是我们希望他在健康的情况下可以来。
If your camper has no medicine and is completely healthy, doesn't need anything, just tick this and then you're done. You don't have to fill in the bottom part. If they are bringing medicine, tick this box and then please list the medicine and the dosage and the reason for taking it. English, Chinese, both are okay, it doesn't matter. You don't have to write both, just if it's Chinese, it's completely okay.
那如果小朋友们要携带任何药物，这个打勾你就填完了。那如果你有带一些药物的话，中英文都可以帮我们这边勾完之后填写一下中英文。使用的方式和药物的名称还有次数，这样护士才会更了解。
It's also best on the medicine itself to write their name, their English name on there, and then also the dosage and things like that, so we can use that. Also, if your camper has contact lenses that they wear at nighttime, please let us know on the form. The nurse will help them, not stick her finger in their eye, but she will give them a place with a nice light and a good sink to do it. Sometimes children try to do it in their tent and they lose them, and a lot of them are very, very expensive. So we will not touch them. We don't take any responsibility for them, but we will provide a really nice, bright space for them to do that.
那像如果小朋友戴什么矫正型眼镜啊，或者是隐形眼镜，他有戴的话，这个也麻烦跟我们填写一下，我们会希望他们去一个比较有大人在旁边，但我们不会帮他们放进去眼镜里，他们自己来做这个动作。因为有的时候小朋友那眼镜很贵，然后他在帐篷里面暗暗的，然后他这边放隐形眼镜，然后不小心掉，然后踩到坏了。那个有一些矫正型隐形眼镜是几千块钱的，所以说我们会给他一个环境，让他可以好好的把那个隐形眼镜在睡前或者是要使用的时候戴上。
The campers, there are bathrooms in every area of camp. So the boys' camp area has a boys' bathroom facility. Girls' camp has a girls' bathroom facility. The lodge has bathrooms inside the lodge. There's some areas of camp where it's boys and girls, so they have to go to another location. They've got a big bathroom area that they can use.
那洗澡的话，就是男生营区有男生的营区洗澡的地方，女生营区有女生营区。这些东西都是分开来的。那有室外跟室内，那个是室外，然后它旁边那边是有室内的。
A lot of times we'll get, on our feedback, we do a survey at the end of each summer, and I'll always read through all the comments. And every year there's at least one comment that says, my daughter couldn't believe it, or my son couldn't believe it, there was a frog in the bathroom. Do you ever clean the bathroom? Please look at the pictures. There could definitely be a frog in the bathroom. We clean the bathrooms several times a day. We have staff that's all they do is go around cleaning the bathrooms. I'll tell you right now, in boys' camp, it is going to be disgusting after the boys go to the bathroom. Girls' camp is usually okay. Boys' camp, once or twice a day, we have to go down there with a hose and just hose the whole thing down. I think that's a boy problem, not a girl problem. But our bathrooms are very rustic. They're outside. They have they have doors on them, but they will find bugs down by the toilets. But it's cleaned regularly.
那他每年都会读那个意见调查表的调查，每年都会有小朋友跟妈妈反映说他在厕所里面有看到青蛙或者是虫之类的，然后家长就问我说：“那厕所是不是不干净？”那基本上我们是每天都有人在清，一天大概要清3次，然后女生那边是还好，男生这边可能有时候要再多清1-2次。那虫呢？青蛙因为厕所是阴凉处，他们一定会很喜欢这个地方，所以他们一定会进去。小朋友看到这些东西是非常正常的，但是厕所是干净的。
The kids love to shower outside. The outside showers have hot water as well. If they shower outside, they must wear a bathing suit for obvious reasons. Also, we have the indoor showers, and we'll talk to the counselors, especially on the boys' side and the girls' side. We'll tell them if you have a child who's showering outside every day, to ask them to go inside and shower at least 2 or 3 times during the week. There's enough time for them to shower inside if they really want to shower inside, and the council will try to make them do it at least twice a week so they get completely naked, get completely clean. Because if you have 5 boys in a tent just getting kind of clean, it can make the tent smell very bad.
那我们有户外的洗澡，那当然在户外洗的话，我们要求小朋友一定要穿泳衣，泳衣才可以洗。那他们如果2、3天洗了，都是先洗，都是洗户外的话，我们会跟 counselor 讲说，他们如果这样子的话，一定会要求他们隔天可能要去室内洗，因为穿着泳衣洗，毕竟洗的只是半干净而已，那一定要进去里面洗，然后全身脱光光，洗干净一点，要不然5、6个小朋友全部同一个 tent 的，没有都是半干净，那真的是后面可能会有一点不太舒服。
Alright, let's talk about homesickness. Your child, when they come to camp, might miss home at some point. Sometimes we won't even know because they do it on their own. But every child will miss home a little bit.
那想家是非常正常的事情。那很多在每一个营区里面，每一个时段，每一个小朋友可能都有一点想家的情况。他们会不会跟我们表现出来，这是不一定的。但是他们会有时候会自己处理。
But I have bad news. It's not very often that they really miss home. A lot of times, I've had letters from moms and dads that say, it's like a love letter written to a child saying, I miss you so much. It's the first time since you were born that you have not been next to me in my bed. Oh my gosh, you must be missing me so badly. And they usually are not. So even if you really miss your child, don't project that onto your child. They're probably just fine.
那他的坏消息就跟家长讲说，其实你的小朋友没有这么的想家，想家到需要回家的这种情况下，那他有一些家长有写过来说，我真的好想你，妈妈想你，然后从你到出生到现在，这是你第一次离开家里，然后非常的希望可以早上赶快再见到你，但是这个感觉呢，可能对小朋友在玩的时候是完全没有想到的事情。
But there are cases where there are children who really miss home, and it's not during the daytime. It's very, very rare that a child will cry during an activity because they miss home. From 9 to 12, they've got 3 hours of activities. At lunchtime, they have lunch, they have a quick break, and then from 2:30 to 5:30, they have another 3 hours of activities. And they have a dinner, and then they have another 90 minutes of activities before they go to bed. There's not a lot of time. So usually during the activities, no problem. When they get it right before bedtime, and they kind of want to go home, it's unfamiliar, they're in a tent, they're not in their bed, they can't watch TV, they miss mom, then they start to get a little bit upset, some of them.
那想家的情况通常不会发生在白天呐，就是他们还在活动的时候，因为早上从9点到12点，他们有3个小时活动，中餐、午休，然后再加3个小时的活动，晚餐，然后再还有一个晚上的活动，通常是在他们要睡觉前的那个时候，他们才突然发现到，我今天不会回家，我不会睡在我的床上，我没有电视看。那个时候呢，他们就会有一些想家的感觉。
It is not fatal. They will not die from homesickness. We have never, ever, ever, ever sent a child home because they were homesick. So don't worry. If you get them on the bus, you will not see them again until Saturday.
那基本上呢，讲难听一点，想家死不了，所以他们送来之后呢，我们还没有送小朋友回家，是因为他们想家的关系。所以你基本上送来之后，你们要到星期6才会看到他。
And there's a reason, because we spend a whole lot of time training our counselors about homesickness and how to deal with it. And the main thing that we do with the kids is we don't spend a lot of time talking about home with them. If they're homesick, we immediately try to turn the conversation to what they did that day. I know you feel sad now, but tell me about the activities you did today. What was your favorite activity? If the counselor feels like they're spending a lot of time with the camper and they can't get the child to stop crying or can't get the child to join in the activities, then a senior leader or myself or my partner will talk to the child. And what I'll usually say to them is, listen, if you want to write a letter home, I'll let you write a letter home, and you can say everything you want to talk to your mom about, or your dad. Say, come and get me tomorrow. Come and get me right away. I need to go home right now. And I'll take that and I'll say, no, you have to write at least 1 or 2 things about fun things you did at camp today. Because I talked to your counselor and he said you had a really good time at archery and that you loved the climbing wall. So you can't just write that we're holding you here like a prisoner and you want to go home.
那小朋友在想家的情况下，那这个我们在辅导员在训练的时候，都会先跟他们就有一个特别的时间点，会教他们说这要怎么处理。那第一个重点就是说要转移说他们想的东西，因为他们现在就是想家。那我们会通常会转移话题，跟他说：那你今天到底做什么？你做了一些什么活动让你觉得很开心？你喜欢玩什么？那如果这个辅导员觉得说他还是没有办法让这个小朋友就是安抚这个小朋友去做一些其他的活动的时候，这个时候麦果或者是啾啾会再进一步的跟小朋友沟通，让他们有一个机会去说写一些东西跟家里联络啊。那他当然如果只写说我要回家，我要回家，赶快把我带走吧。这个我们跟他说，那你要最起码要跟爸爸妈妈写说你最近做了什么，你让什么东西让你很开心，因为我们了解的是说你还有一些活动你觉得很开心，我们不是把你关在这边好像一个监牢一样，你只能吃这些东西，你只能在这里洗澡，你可能只能在户外洗澡这样。
Out of 130 campers a week, I would say maybe 2 or 3 will have a serious case of homesickness.
那大概120个小朋友里面，通常是2到3个会有这种想家的情况发生。
If it gets to the point where I'm telling them they could write a letter home and I send you the letter, I'll email you as well and say, here's your child's letter. They felt really bad today, but they did have all this fun today at the activities. And I'll check with the counselor. I'll make sure that they're joining in the activities. And then I'll usually ask you to write a letter to email it to me that I can give to them. It should always be something about, hey, I'm really proud of you. This is a really great experience. I'm glad you like this and this. I know you miss home, but we're all really proud of you at home. We can't wait to see you Saturday. That's the kind of letter. Please don't write a love letter about how much you miss your child too, and that you're crying every night because you miss them.
那如果我们有到小朋友要写信给你的时候，那我们会同样一个时间也会写一个 email 给你说，他小朋友到底做了些什么，然后他们现在在营区的状况是怎么样。那我们会希望你也回复一封信给小朋友，那希望内容是说你对他们觉得很快乐，他们可以这样子在这里活动，然后很自主、很独立自主这样子。那也不希望说就是说你可以写一封信说马上过来接你回家，因为我们希望说他们还是可以继续的在营区继续做活动，然后学习这样自己慢慢的来生活。
There are ways that you can help. Be 100% honest with your child about what's happening. We've had people that lie to their child to get them on the bus, saying that if you really don't like it, you can just come home, or you can call me every night before you go to bed, just to get them on the bus. And then when I get them, they tell me that, and I'm like, oh no. And so I've got to call mom and dad and say, but that's not the way, that's not the rule. So please be completely open to them. Talk to them frankly that you might feel a little bit homesick, but there's so many fun things to do. If they're a little bit nervous before they go, show them the videos. We've got loads of videos on YouTube of kids happily playing and doing the giant swing and river tracing, all that stuff. But just be completely honest with them. And also you can write letters. Write letters for each day and put them in envelopes and put them in a little bag. At the bus drop-off, give that to the counselor. The counselor will give that to your child's counselor, and we will give them out every day at lunchtime throughout the week.
那你可以帮我们另外一方，就是说，你送小朋友上车的时候，麻烦要跟他们诚实，不要骗他们说，因为他们现在不想上，你就说你可以每天打电话回家给妈妈，这是不会发生的事情。然后如果来说，妈妈说我可以每天打电话回家跟她聊天，我们会说没有这回事。所以这个事情麻烦要跟他们诚实的讲说，他们会做到的事情，就是说他们基本上不会因为想家而被送回家，但是他们想家是正常的事情。你可能会想家，那你想家的时候，你要做什么样的事情？然后妈妈觉得你很开心，你可以勇敢、很独立的做这件事情，但是不要跟他讲说他如果想家可以回家这种事情。然后当然还有你也可以在送小朋友来之前，就先帮他每天可以写一封信，或2-3天写一封信。当然不用用邮寄，就直接来的时候就直接交给我们的 counselor， 那他会每一天会发信给小朋友，他每天可以收到1封信或2封信，那个对他们精神上面的一些支持是非常大的。
You can also, if you forget, you can also write emails, but don't send, if you're traveling like in Europe or Paris or something, don't send pictures of all the fun that you're having outside.
你也可以传 email 给我，但是如果你们刚好是那个时候跑出去玩啊，不要寄给他那个什么，现在我在 Grand Canyon 哦，很好这样子，那就写封信就好，就是写你很开心。
Homesickness is not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing for the child. Aside from homesickness, there will be other negative feelings that they will feel at camp. They will be afraid sometimes. They might meet someone they don't get along with. They might not understand everything that everybody's saying. over the course of 6 days and 5 nights, 24 hours a day, your child will be unhappy, they will be sad, they will be happy, they will be feeling excited, they'll feel all those things. If someone called my house at a certain time and wanted to talk to my child, I cannot guarantee he's going to be happy or my daughter's going to be happy. I just don't know. They're going to go through all of these emotions just like they would in a normal week at home. The difference is, instead of having mom or dad who they can latch onto and say, help me through this, let me, teach me how to do this, they're going to have a counselor. Their counselor is very well trained and they know how to deal with it, but they're not their family. So the child has to take more responsibility in the relationship to overcome some of these negative feelings. And luckily, they get to do it in a really super safe environment with a lot of professional people taking care of them. And that's one of the goals of camp. It's not a negative side effect of camp. It's one of the reasons why kids come to camp.
那想家这个感觉并不是一个坏的事情，因为想家之外，他们也会有其他不同的感受，就是可能会快乐，可能会伤心，可能会害怕。那这些感受，他都在家里的时候，他在一般的家里的时候也都会有这个感觉。那通常的话，他会跟妈妈或跟爸爸讲这些东西。那在 camp 的时候呢，在 camp 的时候，他会跟辅导员做这些沟通，但是毕竟他们不是血亲，所以这很多的这一个层面，他去处理的时候，也会来自于他们自己。那这个时候就让他们有所成长，让他们自己慢慢了解说他们是可以处理这些事情。
So I talked a little bit about the communication letters and emails. If you want your child to write you letters, you can send them with envelopes and that are addressed and paper that they can write on. We will mail it for them, but you have to give us stamps. If you give us stamps, we'll take it the next day at lunchtime when we take the mail down. They can send you letters. They cannot just email you. I only help them email you in extreme cases of homesickness. I'll make it a deal. I'll say, listen, if you can tell me 5 good fun things you did today, I'll let you email mom and dad about what you want to say. But email is not a normal way for your child to communicate with you. They cannot call you. You cannot call camp and talk to them. They cannot bring a cell phone or any other kind of electronic device. And you cannot come and visit them. I'll explain why after Jeff translates.
那刚刚有讲到信件啊、email 啊，然后如果你希望小朋友可以用一些传统的方式写信的话，帮他们准备一下那个信封跟那个叫突然忘了这个叫什么邮票，对，太久没有用了，你知道吗？邮票，那这个时候就是他写好，我们会帮他们寄出去，隔天就寄出去，但是收到的时候他可能已经回到家。那我们还有另外一个就是说没有办法。他们不会打电话，也不能带手机，然后家长也不能来访问。
Why? It's a very simple reason. Like I said, over the course of that week, your child's not going to be happy all the time. They will not call you when they're happy. They will only call you when they don't feel well. And so you will be at home and you'll get an impression of them at camp that is not accurate. It's not real. Also, that's our rule. And everybody else follows the rule. So if you help your child break the rule, then it's a really awkward conversation that I have to have with you. Because then I call you and I say, but mommy, your daddy, you knew the rule and your child's broken the rule. So please don't break that rule. They are your children, however. They do not belong to us. If you cannot take it, if you cannot handle it, and you need your child back, you can come and pick up your child and take them home. I cannot stop you from doing that. But you can't come and visit them and then leave. If you come to camp, you're taking your child home.
那不能打电话这个情况就是说，因为小朋友会想打电话，通常就是他们觉得已经有一些不安全或者是什么样的感觉的时候，他们才会想，就是他们今天很生气，需要跟妈妈讲。但是这并不是代表他们整个在营区活动的一个感受，所以这是一个不正确的一个反应。然后再来就是说，他如果需要打电话的话，那我们必须要跟你说，因为我们不能为一个人做一个不一样的处理方式。那这样的话，我们没有办法跟其他人讲说，他今天打电话回家是因为这样子。所以基本上就是大家一视同仁，就是一样，就是不能打。那如果你来了，你要带小朋友回家 ，OK。因为我们不会阻止你做这件事情。如果小朋友真的想要回家，你真的来了带他回家，我们不会阻止你。那如果你来了只是来拜访，基本上我们会请你把小朋友带回家。因为就是说，你如果来了，基本上就是你要把小朋友带回家的情况。你不能来了只是看小朋友然后就回家。
And that's also for security reasons. Your child knows who you are, but the other children don't know who you are. The counselors don't know who you are. Anytime an adult comes into camp, we go and we spend resources to go and talk to that person and find out why they're at camp. So if parents show up and to see their kids, it makes it more difficult for us to manage the camp that way.
那如果有家长来了，因为基本上我们的营区只要有我们不认识的人来，一定我们跟counselor讲说，一定马上就要有人过去跟他们聊，就是了解一下他们到底是谁，为什么要来。因为这样的情况下，我们在那个可能现在带那个活动的counselor有2个，那一个人要过去的话，他另外一个人要顾其他小朋友，这是一个安全上的顾虑。我们希望说，如果没有这个问题的话，counselor就会专注在他们做他们应该要做的事情，而不是要去应付说突来的一些不应该或者是没有需要来的一些东西。
Also, we don't really have cell phone signal. You only get it a little bit. So what happens sometimes is someone starts talking on the phone, and then there's no signal. Oh my gosh, is my child okay? What happened to my child? I was talking to them. Or someone in the tent who didn't bring a phone borrows their friend's phone. And so a mother who's not expecting a phone call gets a phone call from their child, and what's going on? And all of a sudden the phone goes off. They're like, who has my child? What's happening? This last winter, for the first time, we had a watch. It looks like a normal watch, like a little kid's watch, and it was a phone. And mom and dad knew it was a phone, and the children knew it was a phone. And when I tried to take it, the child got very, very angry with me and assured me that her mother had said she could call every night before she goes to bed. In fact, she was required to call every night before she goes to bed. And so I had to call the mom and say, that's against the rules, and you just had your daughter break a really big rule. It's not you breaking the rule, you've had your daughter smuggle this watch in. Please, no matter how much your child begs for it or wants you to do it, or no matter how much you feel you need to do it, if you really, really feel that you can't be out of contact with your child for 6 days, then your child is not ready for camp, or you are not ready for camp. It's a big step. It's not everybody's ready at an early age. It's something that people have to think about, but you really need to make that decision before you pack your child's bag.
那手机呢？我们那边说实在，手机讯号不是很好，所以进进出出。如果小朋友真的有带手机，打电话打一打，然后突然说妈妈我好想家，然后突然手机断了，你就会马上吓到说发生了什么事情？那个时候呢，就是会造成一些，然后妈妈就马上打电话过来说，我女儿刚刚打电话来，然后她突然手机断掉了，不知道干什么。第一个就是这个事情本来就不应该发生，他们不应该带手机。那他可能打电话，有的时候是家长要求。那去年冬天的时候，现在有一个很进步的一个科技是小朋友的手机手表，那他那个是可以发短讯，然后用非常简短的那个语音这样子。那他妈妈要求他每天要打电话回家，然后当我们要把那一只手表拿走的时候，他非常的生气，因为他说为什么我不能带这个？妈妈跟我说我每天都要打电话回家。那时候我们就要跟家长讲说，这个你来之前就已经知道说我们是不能带这些电子用品，跟家长有清楚的了解和沟通过。那你现在带来了，你还要求你的女儿每天要跟你联络，这样是你要求你的女儿去违反我们的规则，然后让其他小朋友觉得说为什么他可以我不可以？那这是非常严重的一个问题。那再来就是说，这个小朋友在这个情况下。那他可能会觉得说，好像我们对他不公平。所以，如果你觉得说你的小朋友没有办法6天5夜不跟家里联络，或者是你没有办法6天5夜不跟他联络的话，那你可能要再想一下，说你的小朋友准备好了没，或者是你准备好了没，送你的小朋友去6天5夜的一个夏令营。
Okay, we're almost finished. I'm going to go quickly through the last few slides so that we can open it up to questions, because questions are where a lot of the really good information comes out. These 2 articles right here are in your parent handbook. They're also on the website. So when you went on the website to look up summer camp, this document was available. Also, when you registered, it had you tick a box saying that you read and understood all this. A lot of it's very straightforward. It's basically a contract that says will talk to your child before they come to camp and go over these really important rules with them so that they understand what's expected when they get out to camp. It's very basic. No teasing, taunting, threatening, discriminating, unkind words, and violence. No hitting and kicking and punching. 130 kids, there's always going to be incidents. We don't have... the only time we've ever sent campers home is for punching and kicking people or physically assaulting another child. With boys, it's very hard. I've got 2 sons and 1 daughter, and my boys fight all the time, and a lot of times they're playing. So with the boys' camp, it's really difficult. So what usually happens is they are having a pillow fight, which is against the rules, or they're roughhouse, they're wrestling, and they're playing. It's usually friends, and they're playing, and then one of them gets angry and doesn't like it anymore and pushes him, or shoves him, or punches him in the arm, or something like that. The counselors are always nearby. They're always right around there, and so they'll go and take care of it. What will usually happen in a situation like that is I will sit the boys down and I'll determine what happened. If it is boys roughhousing and it gets taken a little bit too far, I will have a talk with them, and that will usually be it, and I'll say, you can't do this again, I'll explain the rules. If it's one boy very angry and he can't control himself and he attacks another boy, then I will, if it's really bad, then we'll send that boy home. If it is something that we think we can manage, we will have that boy sign a contract saying he understands if this happens again, he gets sent home right away, and we will call mom and dad at that point when he signs that and say, this is the incident that happened. If it happens one more time, he understands that he gets sent home. We will also call the boy who was the victim and say, this is what happened, and this is what happened at camp, and we just want you to know that this is how we dealt with it, and if the other boy does this again, we will send him home. And that usually helps a lot. And if we call you because your child's had to sign that contract, we will have you talk to your child and let them, so that they can be clear that we're all on the same page.
那在家长手册里面都有这一页哦。那这一页呢，我记得有一个勾是说我有读过这一页。那基本上另外一点就是说，你必须要跟你的小朋友坐下来，一项一项的慢慢跟他解释说，这些是他在夏令营必须要遵守的一些规范。我们通常送小朋友回家，我们通常只有一个原因，就是小朋友打人，就是在肢体上面有做一些冲突。那当然在 boys camp 这种可能，因为他跟朋友一起来，他常常会可能拿枕头战打一打，然后突然超过线，然后突然有一个人觉得说他觉得不太高兴，然后他挥了一拳。那这个情况下，当然辅导员第一件事情就是先让小朋友先冷静下来，再来就是他们会过来跟我们谈。那在这个情况下，就是说我们会先了解到他为什么会发生这件事情，可能是他们只是在玩，然后不小心有人越线了，让另外一个人受伤。那这样的话，可能就是先跟他们讲说，要记得我们这边就是基本上不能以肢体的冲突来做一个玩的方式，因为总有一天会有人不小心超过线，打得太用力了，或是怎样。那另外一个情况就是说，他如果是可能是真的很生气，然后不小心挥了一拳，他受不了了。那这个情况下，有可能我们会请他写一个像合约，就是说他不会再做这件事情。那这个情况下，我们会打电话跟家长致电，就是说，你今天小朋友今天做了什么事情，然后他有签这个合约，那如果再发生一次，我们可能就要送他回家。然后被打的小朋友，我们会跟家长联络说，你今天小朋友今天可能被另外一个小朋友做了什么样的事情，那让家长了解说这个事情有发生，不会让他惊喜到回家说小朋友突然跟你讲说，妈妈我在夏令营被人家打了好几拳。这个事情是不应该发生的。那另外，这再来就是说，他如果真的是小朋友觉得说他一定会再犯，他觉得他没有办法控制自己的话，那我们可能会跟家长联络，就是可能请小朋友要跟家长稍微了解一下，可能要不要回家。
The other things are very straightforward: language and naughty words, things like that. We also talk about the electronic devices, not bringing electronic devices. If they have a digital camera and they want to bring to take pictures, that's okay, as long as the camera doesn't have games and things like that. And it shouldn't be expensive. They should not bring expensive things to camp. We had one child that came to camp a couple springs ago, and we went to sit down before an activity on the ground, and he says, I cannot sit down. I was like, why can't you sit down? And my mom says, if I get these pants dirty, I'll get in trouble. And so I got my hands dirty and I wiped them on his pants and said, that's your mother's fault for packing you nice pants to a summer camp. Please just send them in clothes that can get dirty. Don't send them with expensive things, jewelry or watches or anything like that. We don't take any responsibility. If they lose something at camp, it's most likely gone forever. It's 90 acres. Camp is very big and it's very hard to find things once they go missing.
那当然就是像语言啊，就是我们不会就是骂脏话这些东西。那有发生的情况，counselor会马上提醒小朋友。那尽量就是带的东西、穿着的东西，就是不要太贵重。因为他如果他之前就有发生说，小朋友穿一件很贵的裤子，然后来的时候，他就我们请大家坐在草地上，小朋友说我不能坐下。我们会说为什么？因为他说我的裤子嘛，他说不能弄脏，很贵。那麦就拿手拿泥巴，然后直接抹在他裤子上说。那是你妈妈的错，因为我没有跟你讲说不要带太贵重的东西。 那东西掉了哦，很难找得到，因为我们营区有80几公顷，在某一寸的东西掉了，可能被风吹走，可能被草盖住，可能被小动物咬走。基本上掉的东西可能就是永远再找不回来。有找回来的话，我们会跟办公室讲一次。那再来就是他们如果要带相机是 OK 的，但是不要带太贵重的相机，如果会搞丢。如果他可能会小朋友照顾不佳，然后掉了撞坏，这也是一个问题。
As far as the safety and security of camp, if any of you have been on the camp tour, you'll know that it's not easy to find us. We don't have signs all over the place pointing to camp because we don't want people to just show up at camp. It's all by appointment, by arrangement. So we're very secluded. If anybody comes to camp, we know right away because it's very obvious. So we have a strict visitor policy. Our ratio for our activities is there's one counselor for every 6 to 7 children. So there's always adults around your child. There's always the kids don't go anywhere by themselves. They're always with another camper if they're going from point A to point B, and they're always with counselors when they're together. At night when they're sleeping, the counselors are always down in the sleeping area. So right after the evening program, 1 or 2 counselors will lead the kids down to the area, and the kids will get ready for bed, and all the counselors will come down and say good night. And then after that, the counselors have a chance to take a shower, so they come up to take a shower, but we always leave counselors down in that area on night duty until 10:30. After 10:30, all the counselors are down there, so there's always adults around your children. And they're all very trained on what our processes are to deal with people who have come to visit camp.
那如果有来过我们营区都知道，我们实在是非常的难找，所以基本上有心人，除非他要非常的有心，他才会找得到我们。那就比如来说 ，Google Map， 如果你用 Google Map 来找的话，我跟你保证你会走错地方，因为 Google Map 上面的地址是错误的。地址是正确，但是点位是错误的。
Don't drive that road. It's not there. The road is not there.
那另外就是说，我们小朋友的比例大概是 ，Could you go back to the last one？ 小朋友的比例大概是1:6，有可能到1:7。那基本上他们在任何的情况下，除了他们可能要去上厕所，两个人一起去，就不会有 counselor 的陪同。那通常他们在一起的时候，都会有一个 counselor 在，最起码会有一个 counselor 在。那晚上睡觉之前，10点半之前一定会有一个 night duty。然后他们在那个区域的时候，就一定会有大概3到4个 staff 在。那10点半之后，所有的 counselor 都会在他们睡觉的那一区，就是他们管他们那一区的小朋友的辅导员，通通都会在那一区。然后，所以如果有人来，我们都应该知道。那如果有不知道的人来，我们马上也会看得到。
Finally, the last slide. On our website, there's still lots of information. We've got the frequently asked questions. Every week that your child's at camp, we will write a blog every day, and we will choose about 50 to 60 pictures for the blog. And you can find that blog by pressing right here. And there's a password for that blog. While your children are at camp, we will not publish their photos online for anybody to see. Once they're away from camp, then we might use them for promotional things on Facebook and things like that. But while kids are at camp, we don't publish their photos.
那像我们的网页里面还有更多的资讯，像有一个常见问题，就是你可以去看一下，如果有一些其他的东西，可能你需要答案的，可能这里面会有。那我们也会照大概每天大概会 po 60到70张照片，那这里面会有我们的部落格的连接。那你只有你们那一区那一梯次的夏令营的爸爸妈妈会有那个密码。在小朋友在营区的时候，他们的照片不会公开，就是完全就是只有在这个时候你们才可以看得到。那之后呢，我们可能会拿来做一些就商业上的使用。
We take a lot more pictures than that. Every week we take about 7,000 pictures, something crazy. They're not all very good because the counselors, their first job is to have a safe activity. Their second job is to make sure the kids are having fun, and their 6th job is to take pictures. So we don't put a lot of time and effort in making sure we've got great photos at every activity. We do hire a photographer who comes and takes some nice photos and makes videos. The first night we try to get a picture of everybody. So we do a picture of each tent so you can at least see your child the first night. After that, the blog is to give you an idea of what's happening at camp. You might not see your child every night. But that does not mean we don't have pictures of your child. At the end of the week, we will take all those pictures and we will put them into a Dropbox folder and share the link with everybody. You can download all the pictures from the week. don't look at the pictures super carefully, trying to guess if your child's happy or sad. I've had moms and dads email and say, my child looked really, really upset at an activity. And like, the child was playing basketball, was like this. How can you tell? How can you tell that your child is not happy? But that's what the blog is for.
那除了部落格60-70张照片之外，我们还会有照大概6-7千张照片，但是我们不会全部都拿来 po。在那段时间呢，那照片是有一些是由我们夏令营的时候，我们会有请一个像是摄影师来照照片，但他每一个时间点他只能在一个地方，所以他不可能照到全部的人。但是说我们在第一天的时候会确定每一个小朋友都在照片上面，所以第一天的时候你一定会看到在部落格看到你们家小朋友的照片。在后面呢，因为照片是算是挑出来的，所以就可能比较不会再看到你小朋友到最后一天。那我们所有的照片都会放到一个 Dropbox 的云端，我们会把链接给你们，让你们可以去下载。那在这个时候，你就是必须要了解到说，那个小朋友在那个时间点他的感觉是怎么样的，是很难猜测的。他可能只是在做一个活动，然后他的活动必须要让他这样子。那你不要想说他怎么都不开心，然后跟我讲说我小朋友在这个时间点非常不开心，到底是发生什么事情？所以这个是非常难讲他们那个时间点到底是在做什么。
Okay, that's all we have for the formal presentation. We're welcome to answer any questions. If you want to just raise your hand, you can ask your question and stand up and ask your question. If you have a question you don't want to ask in front of everybody, then when we're done, we'll linger and you can come up and ask questions.
那这是基本上我们今天的一些介绍。如果你现在还有问题，现在是一个很好的时间来问我们。
Our first question. Yeah, so for the counselor gender, all the girl counselors are all girls, and all the boys counselors are all boys. Sometimes with the mini camp, the little campers in August, we have 5 to 7-year-olds, and sometimes we'll put female counselors with boy campers, because we find that a lot of our female counselors work very well with the younger kids. But there'll also be boy counselors there as well, but there'll never be a boy counselor for female campers ever.
那通常而言，男生的辅导员会带男生的小朋友，然后女生的辅导员带女生的。除非是 mini camp， 就是小朋友里面的时候，那我们通常可能会派一些女生的辅导员带一些小朋友，因为通常有时候我们发现这个可能对一些男生的小朋友对他们也是比较好的方式。溯溪的鞋子我们营区会提供，所以他们不需要带溯溪的鞋子。他们来参加溯溪的活动的话，溯溪鞋、救生衣、头盔我们都有。
这上面写说辅导员跟学员的比例是1:1，可是你刚刚是说1:6或1:7，这到底是？
Yeah, at the activity. So overall, for all of camp, it's 1 to 5. So at camp, it's a 1 to 5 ratio. But we might have an activity with 2 counselors and 12 kids at an activity, but there's other counselors in the area as well. That's a safety ratio, not an activity ratio.
所以在就是我们上面是写1:5，1:5是说像帐篷的比例是1:5，就是在他们不是做活动的时候是会1:5，因为其他在做活动的时候，因为其他 counselor 可能会在做一些后勤的东西，所以活动的时候大概是1:6到1:7。
Yes.
Well, it would be okay to share the agenda or activity up front with the kids to prepare them for the camp.
The core activities you can find all online. I think on the website, if you go to camp activities, it gives you a good idea of what the core activities are. But there's always lots of activities that we do that aren't on the website. The free choice activities, so lots of different crafts and things like that. But a really good thing to do with the campers before is to go on the our YouTube channel, which is linked to our site, and you'll see all the stuff they do. All the activities are.
你刚刚是要问小朋友，可以让小朋友先知道他们会做什么？
对，因为我会担心这样会不会就是有些小孩子会开始害怕，或者是怎么样的？就是说，以你们的经验，是不是可以事先让他们做分享？
我觉得可以，因为让他们也可以，就是跟他们诚实的讲说，他们可能会做一些什么活动，让他们稍微有心理的准备。那我们基本上我们的营区的。就是我们所谓的一个座右铭，就是 challenge by choice。他们如果真的很害怕一个活动，就像说我们的高空的绳索，他们最起码基本就是不可怕的东西要做到，但是我们不会逼他们一定要做。就是像攀岩，他们不需要爬到最上面，他们可以爬到一定的高度，然后他们再继续挑战自己，再爬高一点。然后他们如果真的不行了，要下来，我们会让他们下来。对。
Yeah, so that's a really important point. If you have campers that are afraid of heights or afraid of bugs or afraid of going in the water. It's not a military boot camp. We're not the army. But they cannot say before they come that they will not do it. Unless there's some medical condition that prevents them from doing it. We have challenge by choice. So each team, each activity team, they compete with other teams and the counselors give them points. The way they earn points is by being a good teammate and encouraging their teammates. So at rock climbing, we have the equipment that they have to put on. They have to put the equipment on. They have to help their partner put the equipment on because this is a skill that we want to teach them. They have to have a number. You're first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So even if they're scared, they have to get a number so that they have the opportunity to challenge themselves. After that, once they get clipped on, they can take one step and that's it, and that's okay. They don't have to go more than a foot off the ground. They just go, oh, okay, I'm done, I'm too scared, I'm coming down. We'll say, okay. And the environment we create with the teams and the counselor is completely positive. So if any child tries to say anything negative, oh, you're chicken, or you didn't do it, the counselor will jump in right there, and that will not be accepted. It's all challenge by choice. But what we don't like is for them to just come to camp and say, my mom said I don't have to do climbing, or my dad says I'm not going in the river. That makes it difficult for us to lead the activity.
那像我们也是有碰到说家长跟小朋友说你不可以下水或什么的，那我们是希望小朋友来到这里的时候是必须要了解说他并不需要一定要做这个活动，但他不能说他不做这个活动，他需要做到一个尝试的动作。那不可怕的地方他一定要做，不可怕的地方穿上吊带不可怕，这是一个学习一个技能，帮助他的朋友穿上一个吊带，鼓励他的伙伴，这是一个技能。但是他并不是说他一定要爬到最上面，他爬了一步他觉得哦可怕，我要下来。OK， 我们马上让他下来。我们会尽量的去鼓励他说，那你要不要再尝试再爬一步，再高一点点有没有关系？让他们做这个选择。那我们会，如果小朋友在旁边有一些负面的语言的话，我们会马上提醒说，哎，你还没有去爬，或者是你爬，你觉得很简单，但并不代表说大家都认为它很简单，所以你要跟他们又做鼓励，并不是让他们说觉得很害怕。
请问一下，如果他到时候活动遇到台风的时候怎么办？
Oh yeah, so if there's a typhoon, it's all published in our parent handbook. If there's a typhoon coming, we will know, and we will start sending out email updates for the sessions that are affected. So if it's Friday before you're supposed to come out to camp, and we know that there's a typhoon coming, we will email all the parents for that next session and say, we know that there's Typhoon Mike coming up to Camp Taiwan. This is the current course. We think this is what's going to happen, but we will do another update at this time. What happens is if the typhoon comes on a Sunday, Monday, we might delay camp to Tuesday, Wednesday, and we prorate the activity portion of the tuition and refund you for the days missed. If it's going to come on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it makes it very difficult to run the camp. So then we might have to refund just the activity portion of the tuition that's... And the way the refunds work, there's a registration fee, there's a transportation fee, some of that is non-refundable. If they come to camp, the transportation fee is not refundable because we still have to pay all the buses. But all of the other part of the tuition fee is refundable based on how many days we miss. Usually, hopefully, typhoons will come on a Sunday, Monday, or a Saturday, Sunday, so that we can just come late and have a full time, or come early and have it. But sometimes typhoons are bad, and so it looks like it's going to be completely okay. We bring everybody out to camp, and then the typhoon changes course and is going to come. We will keep all the email updates. Sometimes we have to change the pickup time and change all that. We communicate with everybody. What we'll do is usually send an email to everybody and say, if you get this email, say, I got it. And anybody that doesn't email back, we will then telephone and let them know what's going on. But I always have the cwv.gov.tw website on my computer all the time. To check thunderstorms, to check rain, to check typhoon, everything is always up. So we do have technology and Wi-Fi and everything out at camp, and we keep track of that and communicate as much as we can with the parents.
那中央气象局这个我们每天都在看哦，就算是下大雨我们都会看。所以如果有台风的情况，我们一定会马上就是 email 家长说，现在我们在关注这个台风，那现在情况是怎么样，它的动向是怎么样。那如果寄 email， 我们会希望说就是会要求家长说你读了就马上 email 回来给我们说我收到了。那如果有家长没有回复的话，我们就会打电话联络通知，就说好，现在我们有这个台风的情况，那现在是怎么样？那如果是台风，如果是在星期一、星期二来到的话，那我们可能就是把前面2天的活动往后推，然后我们那个 refund 就是退给你前面这2天这个以 百分比的方式退给你之前那个2天 miss 的钱。那如果是在中间的话，这个就比较有点问题了。中间就真的很困难，因为又要把小朋友载回来，又要把小朋友载回去。那时候我们就可能会做一些不一样的处理，让他看台风的情况。那有一些费用是不能退，如果像是就是交通费跟注册费这2个是不能退，其他的活动的费用的话，就是看活动的情况，然后我们再做退费的情形。
Yes.
How about sneakers?
So the sandal, it's best if they do not bring any sort of sandals. Sometimes parents want their children to bring sandals for shower time. They really don't need it. If they have sports sandals that cover their toes, it's okay. But it's completely okay for them to wear shoes, take the shoes off, take the shower, and put the shoes back on. The reason being is that camp we have lots of rocks and lots of little pathways, and it's a very simple stumble or injury can really cut up your toes. And it would be really sad for a camper to have to go home because they tripped, because they didn't have the proper footwear on. So we want them to have covered toes. There are some sports sandals that cover the toes, which are okay, and have a nice thick bottom, which are completely fine. Crocs that have something that goes around the back of the heel are okay for shower time, if they want to wear Crocs at shower time. But the tuoshe, the flip-flops are no good at camp. It's really hard to get around. Also at nighttime, if they go to the bathroom, I don't want them to put tuoshe on and walk around camp at nighttime. It's not good.
那我们在 Packages 就是解说拖鞋是不建议啦，因为我们毕竟是石子路，那小朋友如果穿拖鞋，然后因为滑倒，然后最容易受伤的地方其实就是脚趾。那有一些凉鞋现在是有那种包覆脚趾，像是 Kings 这一种，那是 OK。那 Crocs 也有一些是包覆脚趾还蛮硬，然后后面有 High Heel， 这样的话也是 OK。就是说尽量是避免因为这一类型的原因受伤，然后必须要回家，因为你如果脚趾头受伤，你可能不能跑，不能做一些活动，那他基本上就是他也没办法做活动的话，那回家其实是最好的方案。对。
All right. If there are no more questions, we'll just go to here. I will stay up here and pack up my stuff if you want to ask Jeff or myself. I speak Chinese, so if you have a Chinese question for me, I can talk to you one-on-one. If half of you leave, I can talk to the other half in Chinese as well, but not for everyone.
那如果还有问题，那可以，我们也可以私下来问我们。那他也是可以讲中文，那你也可以问我。那谢谢大家今天晚上来这里。吃素了你就写吃素，我会帮你准备吃素的东西。
我也是，没有去的就熟。